was sitting in the stands with the kids because he didn't tell me.
Wow.
He didn't tell me. He didn't tell anyone. And so like, I'm literally sitting in the stands, like clapping the girls' hands and like everything. And then the match ends. He's kind of pacing on the mat. And I'm like, I literally look at one of my friends who was there sitting with me. And I was like, he's retiring right now. Wow. And I was like, I have to get down there. And like, I had a badge to get down there, but the fastest way for me to get down there was actually to jump the fence.
Hello, everybody. This is Brittney and Byron, and you're listening to Dirty Laundry with B&B, a podcast about real, relatable relationships.
Transparency at its finest. We air it out and clear it up, offering couples and those seeking healthy relationships a safe, inclusive space to open the vents and find resolve.
Hello, Dirty Laundry listeners. We are so excited to talk to you today. You know, we are getting into January now, like deep into it. So all of those goals, aspirations that some of you may have, you know, looked forward to, hopefully you're well on your way.
Yeah.
And we often talk about, you know, as a couple and maybe even as an individual, having dreams and continuing to have dreams throughout your relationship, but also fulfilling those dreams, which kind of segues into our couple that we have on today. We have someone that has lived out some of their biggest dreams in their life and is now married and dealing with new challenges. So we are really excited to have them on.
Yeah, I'm really liking how our episodes have kind of flowed into the position that we're in right now, because we've already ended 2024 with kind of a recap of how our year went. And then we talked about goals, aspirations, and value setting, really. And then our last episode, we talked about the foundation. Okay, now that we have the foundation set, what happens when we start achieving some of those goals, some of the highest heights that we want to achieve personally or in our relationship? What happens when you've reached that pinnacle, really? The individual that we have on today is a 4-time high school state champion, a 3-time NCAA Division I champion, a 2-time world champion, and an Olympic bronze medalist. But guess what? We're not here to just talk about him, right? We're here to talk about him in his relationship.
Yeah, I mean, more importantly than any of that, he's a husband and a dad. Yeah. And without further ado, we are welcoming J'den and Whitney Cox. Welcome, guys.
Thank y'all for being on with us.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be on the show.
Yeah, no, we're definitely excited about this. Yeah. Also, that's good, but also my wife herself is a 5-time world team member.
Let's go.
Okay, look, let's not forget that too. Okay.
So yeah, She keeps me humble, basically. That's why I married somebody that could beat me up. So
that's right, and hold her own, right?
Yeah, hold her own.
I love it. So if you guys listen to our episode at all, our favorite question to ask every couple we have on is, tell us your love story. Tell us how you met, how you fell in love. Probably the most exciting part of a relationship is when you meet. So give us the story.
We have different stories because she tells it differently than I tell it. But.
Well, you know what? Perspective is reality, right? Yes. Perception is reality, whatever it is, right?
Well, I mean, we first met like on a plane traveling back from the Pan American Championships, and we got stuck in a airport for 7 hours, and we went to actually a Chick-fil-A. Yep. And talked for that 7 hours. And then we split off going different ways for our plane ride back home. And then we were friends for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And then started dating after that. But you can tell kind of like year apart.
Well, I always think like, so that much is true. I think like, and I always bring up the stuff. So we were friends for a while, but like, honestly, before that, or even kind of in the midst of that, even in being friends, like we were just so busy with our own lives, and it wasn't like like we were around each other and stuff like that. Like it's more like we had that one interaction, and then for 3 years we were friends, but like we were also in like different relationships at the time as well. And so like, and on top of that, we were both just so focused on our goals and what we wanted to do and we trained in different areas. Even though we lived in Colorado, we weren't always in the same room and stuff. So we didn't see each other very, very much, right? So it was more of like when we ran into each other, it was like it was just a really cool friendship. And so that was kind of that for me. And so we kind of still had our own journeys to go on and where we were at before we even, embarked on even thinking about being together, right? So I think like that's kind of an important aspect to put on it, because it was like we kind of disappeared from each other's lives at times, even though we were around each other. Because like you may be in my line of sight, but like within what I'm trying to do, you're not in my line of sight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
So I think it's a little bit different like that.
Yeah, that's interesting because both of you, and we're just learning that this morning that, you know, Whitney, you are also, you know, a high level competitor. So how does, you know, you all decide whenever you're on that journey, you know, you're reaching your own star, that those journeys converge? Like, what did that moment look like, if there was a moment?
I mean, we kind of had more than one moment, but like
hold on
for
now.
us,
It's a little early in the show for that more than one moment. Hold on.
like right off the bat, like we kind of had like more than one moment that we were like, we could possibly be together, or we could possibly have like kind of like a possible relationship. But we also kind of had been in relationships for a long period of time. Like for me, I had gone on and off dating someone for many, many years, and it was not a great relationship. It was one that I had a lot of struggle and kind of like kept going through it. And I was like, why am I here in this relationship? Shouldn't be in it. Ended up ending it. And obviously it was the best decision I ever made, because I ended up with my husband, who I'm with now. And like, I couldn't even like describe of like how it felt just to change from the path that I was on, because it was so many years of it and so many years of kind of being pushed down and pushed away and being told like, no, this is like, you're not going to be able, like, you're not going to follow some of these things and some of these goals because I control it. And for us, our relationship is we communicate and actually work together and say like, hey, we have these goals and we want to achieve them, but we're also going to support and help our partner achieve them as well. So like we ended up on a world team together in 2019, and he had known a lot of my relationship and like that I was definitely rocky positions and everything like that with that situation. And so we would like sit there and talk for hours. And not only was he talking to me, he was actually talking to my roommate about like her relationship that she was going through and like trying to like help her in the situation that she was dealing with. And so like all of us were kind of like dealing with bad relationships that weren't right for us. And so we were kind of like communicating on all of it. And that's kind of a part of where our relationship had like built a little bit, because we grew to have like a trust with each other and grew to understand and grow more, as not just like as if it was going to be a relationship later on, but like as a relationship with friends.
Yeah. And I think too, because I remember that too. So in 2019, so right before that world, right? So this was a crazy time for me, because actually my relationship had just come to an end at that point, like literally. And I want to say it had come to an end for that moment, because like you said, where she's talking about going kind of in an in and out relationship. I had been in that relationship for about 3 or 4 years, and it wasn't a great relationship, right? But it was like, it's one of those things where it's like, you think, oh, I invested so much time that you want it to work. And especially with like, I think when you're an athlete, you almost take relationships kind of like competition. Like, I want to win, right? Like, I want to win. I want this to work. I want this to go through. Like, I'm putting in the time. I'm putting in the effort, right? And so like, I think there's a little bit of that. But like literally, so right before the World Championships in Kazakhstan in 2019, the person I was with actually broke up with me, right? And so it's kind of like, oh, okay. And like for me, I knew that I was very upset in that moment, obviously, because it's just like, I'm talking like literally like 2 or 3 days before I leave for the world title, that happens, right? But also in the same sense, this person also wanted to go to the World Championships, and they also were already paid for to go to the World Championships. So it's like, you might as well go, right? Might as well go, whatever. And so I remember we talked with Whitney, and I was talking with her roommate at the time. All of us are good friends, and I think people should understand, just to give insight on that, when you make these world teams, especially over the last 8 to 10 years, the world teams haven't changed that much, right? So like the same people that are making team year after year after year, it almost becomes kind of like an extended family, in a sense. Because you go through these experiences together, you travel together, you talk about life together, right? And so we literally stayed up. I had to wrestle the next day. We stayed up talking till like 3 or 4 o'clock that morning, right?
Wow.
We talked through the night and everything. And then I had to go compete. And then, yeah, well, I don't sleep very much.
Oh, you
Brittney.
did say
I told
that.
you that.
You did tell us that, yeah.
I'm not
The
not
whole
big on
time
sleeping.
we were yelling at him that he needed to go to bed.
Yeah.
It worked out.
It did.
And so we talked about, where we were. And I think, honestly, if I'm honest, I think just as much as I was giving advice and talking, I think it's always easier to give advice to somebody else, right? But then if it's not always easiest to take your own advice, right? So I think in the midst of, talking with them and talking through their issues and also expressing my own, it was kind of almost like I'm talking to you, but I'm also kind of talking to myself about what I need to do and things that I need to get right, and yeah. And
okay, so wait a minute. I have a question. So you're broken up. Whitney still has this not so great relationship at this time, right?
I was kind of broken up at that time as well, but I did go back, and that I shouldn't have done, but I did for a little bit. And so that was kind of like where we had some space of time.
Let's call it, that was an off moment. When we talk about on and off, that was like, we're kind of in our off moments. Because even after this, we both went back to we had on moments with our significant others as well.
Of course.
Sure. I'm sure it was hard. You had both been really invested in your time. But also I wanted to ask, so when you're staying up this night that you stayed up till 3 or 4 in the morning talking, was there a shift emotionally, where you felt like this is no longer necessarily a friendship? I may actually have feelings for this person. Is that the moment of shift, or did it happen while you were still in relationships?
Well, I think, I kind of answer a little bit, so at least for me. So her roommate actually at the time, so there was a point in time while we were talking that she left, right? I can't remember, she left the room or went to the restroom or something. And her roommate at the time was like, you guys would be really good together, right? You guys, this could be really, really good and stuff. And I was like, at the time I was like, I don't really know, but as of right now, we're kind of in the free for all. So funny thing is, after I got done competing at the World Championships, I actually got the worst food poisoning episode I've ever had in my life, right? And it was crazy because then I was I'm hurting, my body's aching, I'm still trying to support my team, and lo and behold, the person that is taking care of me is Whitney, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, through that course of it and everything, and also on top of that too, I would be remiss if I didn't say, I don't know what it was, but the person I wanted to be around was Whitney, right? So I text her to come help me out, and she would come and help and take care of me in whatever manner she could. And yeah, it kind of helped me through a really rough spot.
Yeah. Can we just also recognize the fact that we have these high level competitors and athletes on here talking about feelings?
That's right. And vulnerability.
Can we just identify that one? I mean, that's amazing. But I do have a question on how that looks. So I heard this analogy the other day that women think like spaghetti and men want things to look like Eggos, like waffles, where we want to, compartmentalize everything. So it made me think about this very situation. You're having to get up, you're at, it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, you have to go compete. How do you turn that switch off to go beat somebody up, essentially, right? We're talking combat sports. And then after that's over, turn the switch back on to where you can start feeling emotions and being empathetic and being soft with your partner. How do y'all do that?
I mean, it's kind of goes with our training that we went through, because we both grew up starting wrestling. I started when I was 8. And I grew up wrestling on boys teams, being most of the time the only girl. And so I had to learn that on and off switch pretty early. And I also had to carry myself differently because being the only girl on teams and things like that, people didn't always exactly support it. And I had parents that would come in and tell me, get back in the kitchen, go make me a sandwich. Are you sure you're a girl? This is not a place for you. You don't belong here. You might as well just go home. Things like that. They would say I'm never going to achieve anything. Just a lot of different scenarios. So I had to learn to kind of turn on and off switches a lot. And so wrestling was something that helped me through a lot of different scenarios and kind of saved me through a lot of things. So I just would use it to find different ways to turn that switch on and off and make it my life better throughout time.
Yeah.
And I hate to I don't want to put words in your mouth, Whitney, but it almost sounds like when you met J'den. Also, thank you for making things easier for the women after you that want to wrestle in the sport. Anything that a woman does to make it easier for the future of women, it gets lots of claps from me. But y'all know I'm a little bit of a feminist, so don't get me started.
That's another episode, okay?
But what's amazing is what I hear. What I'm hearing, though, is like you've had a hard time probably in your life being vulnerable based on that, having to like switch back and forth. And then you meet someone like J'den where you find a place where you can be vulnerable. And it's amazing what vulnerability and a safe type of love can allow a person to do and change and shift. Because it sounds like your previous relationship, too, was very hard. It wasn't easy. And then you meet someone and you both are kind of in that same boat. Like, what an amazing win for the both of you.
Yeah,
sure. And I would say for me, it's a little different. Obviously, we have different experiences. And I wrestled at a young age. But I think this didn't occur to me like until later on in my career or just in my life in general. But I think that like the term I am a wrestler doesn't resonate with me now the same way it did while I was competing and stuff. So for a couple of reasons. One, because I only wrestle, even in my training when I'm in the midst of it, at most 4 hours a day. It's hardly enough to even be a part-time job, right? Like there are more aspects of my life that I put myself towards than wrestling, even in the midst of going after my goals and dreams, right? Well, now I can say like I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a sibling, I'm a student, Sometimes I'm just another person on the struggle here, sometimes in America, just in general, just life is just what it is. I have all these other aspects of my life that I probably contribute more of my time is even in the midst of going after a world championship or going for the Olympics than wrestling itself. On top of which, through my career, I was very adamant about if I go, once my time comes and I reach my deathbed, if I'm remembered for being a great wrestler and only that, then I have failed myself. Ooh. I have failed in my life. I have failed in what I was supposed to do because sports are great. I believe in the lessons they learn. I believe in the experiences you gain. I believe in the legacies you can leave, right? But I also think too that like, if that's all it is, then really, if you take all the hours that you have accumulated, even competing and or practicing or going towards this sport, it will not come close to all the hours you missed out on having impact on people's lives that you've probably come in touch with, right? And so I don't think it's even close. I don't care what you say. It's not even close unless you're going and working out 8 hours a day. No one's doing that, right? Nobody's doing that. So the times that accumulate for you as an individual, as a person, that is what matters. And that's even for my job now where I recruit kids to come here and train year round. I want, obviously, like, we want great wrestlers, but at the top peak of it, I want great people, right? That's who I'm recruiting. I'm recruiting who you are as an individual, right? People that, one, I can trust to make sure they control themselves and do what they're supposed to do, who are carrying themselves in a championship manner in other aspects of their lives. Because you have two jobs in life. This is a saying I have. You have two jobs in life. First job is to make sure you don't have that much baggage. Second job is to make sure whatever baggage you got, it don't weigh that much, right? So, and like, there's a reason why, like, I imagine you've lifted in your day, in your time, you've lifted once or twice. Hey,
well, come on.
Just once or twice, though. Wait a minute.
I won't take offense. I won't take offense.
He is in the military now, okay?
Shots fired. Shots fired. Let's get
that might have come out. I didn't mean it to come out that way.
No, once or twice.
You look good, my guy. You look good.
I appreciate it.
But you've lifted, right? It's like, which one's easier to rack? The lightweight or the heavyweight?
Oh, the lightweight. Lightweight's
easier to rack. Whenever, for us, like, we have goals, you guys talk about our goals. When we go into the room to train, right, we want to have as light of baggage, as little baggage as possible. So when we walk in the door, right before we walk in the door, we can put down whatever aside so we can focus on becoming something immaculate, amazing, and elite, right? But if I come in and I have all this baggage, and it's like, whether it's a relationship or whether it's like, with certain types of career, school, whether it's family relations and all that stuff, and it weighs so much, it's hard to just leave it all at the door. And so you still might be carrying someone with you while you step out there to actually focus on your training. And so that's kind of like my aspect on it.
Yeah. That's a great aspect. I think that when I think about that, it's kind of synonymous to like my job or our jobs, how stressful it can be at work, right? And to your point, when I'm on my way home, I'm offloading my baggage of work. At least I try to. And then I get home and I'm lighter and I'm more enthusiastic. I'm more me when I'm at home. And then I get back in the car the very next morning, and on my way to work, I start picking that baggage back up, right? So I can start unpacking it when I get there, right? But to your point, great point made, that it's very important that you first identify what that baggage is, and then see if we can leave it on the rack for a moment so that we can enjoy moments like this. So that's a good word.
So I'm not sure. Whitney, you coach as well, right?
Yeah, I do. So while he was still competing, I was actually coaching a college program in Michigan for about a year. And then once he retired, I left that program and we moved back to Colorado. And I was looking at trying to coach in the military because I actually wrestled for the military for 9 years. Part of the program called the World Class Athlete Program, or WCAP for short.
Yeah.
And right now that position's not really open yet. So it's kind of like a wait and see if that's a possibility maybe later on in the future. But I actually coach right now at a high school. I coach a women's program here in Colorado Springs and just trying to pass on the knowledge and everything. So it's a lot of fun and I love to coach.
So, okay, I have a question too. So you both are athletes, obviously. I would say that probably for life. Is there something that you would take away from your athletic journey that has poured into your marriage, whether that be a specific emotion or way you handle things?
Honestly, for me, no, not really. And I was thinking about it. I was like, one of the flaws of my previous relationships was that my career carried over into my relationships, or the way that I handled them carried over into my relationships. And that meaning, and like I said, like I'm far from perfect. I know there are plenty of relationships, not just even the one I was in before we got together, but like in my past where like I get zeroed in focus, where I'm like, nothing matters. Like there's like, especially when the time of the year comes where like the world is coming up, I ain't talking to nobody. Don't text me, don't call me. Even if you do, you won't get a response, nothing until after it's done. And like, I'll get that way with my training and stuff like that. And on top of that too, kind of like to my point where I was like, hey, I want to win. I don't feel that I have to win with Whitney. I think it really comes down for like, when I think about it, like even for when I retired, and a part of the reasons why I retired. Now this is going to come out weird, but like, it's not a blaming thing, but like, I've been very open about how when I got married, like not so much when I got married, but then once we had kids and found out she was pregnant and things like that, I had a fear actually of having kids. Like I had a fear of being married. And I commend any athlete, and especially any wrestler who was able to be married, have kids, and compete. Because for me, I always felt like I couldn't do that because of the way that I am as a competitor, because it's just, I didn't want to put wrestling ahead of my wife and a friend of my kids. And so then once those things came true, right? And once those things came to fruition, I was like, I think it was a blessing from God, honestly, but I couldn't do it. Right. And so at the point of which I wasn't willing to make the sacrifices for myself to be the best in the world anymore in my sport, because of the love and because of the desire I had for my wife and for my kids. Right. And it showed in my wrestling. Like my last showing wasn't the greatest. Right. It showed in my wrestling and my preparation. Like I was more willing to do what I needed for my family than I was for myself at that point. And I don't think that's a bad thing. It was just the reality of it was. And so I felt if that's the case and I'm not willing to put forth the best effort or all that needs to be done or make all the sacrifices that need to be made to be this anymore, right? Because I can make a national team and stuff, but be the best of the best, then I'm going to step away from it. And that's okay, right? And I think even for that, there was a fear of doing that because of what everybody else was thinking. But even at that moment, I didn't have that fear because it was like, screw everybody else, right? Like the only people in my life that truly that matter when it comes to this kind of decision are my wife and my kids. And this is what I want to do because I want to be with my kids. I want to be with my wife. I want to be with my family. And you know what? I've had a great career and it's one that many people would dream to have. Why would I have anything anything to have to prove to anybody else. I don't have that, because at the end of the day, like, I'm not trying to prove anything with my wife and kids. I'm trying to just enjoy every day that I have, that I'm blessed to be alive, and love them and cherish them as much as possible. I possibly can.
J'den, thank you so much for sharing that. I think it takes a huge amount of humility to admit that, even when you're at the highest of heights in your sport or in your level of life, wherever it is that you're trying to do professionally or personally, that there are thoughts of maybe I should be doing something different, or maybe I should shift the way of my thinking and start attacking that in a different manner. And I do wonder, Whitney, from your perspective, I mean, you had to have viewed, kind of that transition from, hey, I'm going to put everything I can into this wrestling to, okay, now I want to be a better husband and father. What was that transition from your perspective? And then how did you help shape that?
Well, the thing was I had already retired from competing. And so like, I knew what it was like retiring for going for so long, because I wrestled at the senior level from when I was 16 years old until I was about 33.
Wow.
And when I retired, it's not an easy step away, and it's not something anyone else can tell you that it's time. It's a decision that you can only know and make during that time. And so like, for me, it was like, all I can do is really support. And if that's his decision, I'm 100% behind it. And during a lot of this, I was obviously a college head coach, and I was taking my kids to work every single day with me, other than like Wednesdays, and trying to take that baggage off of him so that he could prepare for the Olympics and prepare to win another medal there, and try to make it to where it was the easiest situation for him. And even though I did that, I knew it still wasn't easy, because I knew he wanted to be around it. I knew he wanted to spend time with us and see the kids grow up and everything like that. So like, it was just trying to find the best ways to make it to where we were able to see each other and find that time to be able to spend, even though he'd be gone on trips or things like that. And I would be gone on trips, and I would be taking the kids with me on trips. Yeah. Like, I went to Kentucky with the girls. The girls had been to like 9 different states since like literally
the first 6 months.
Their first 6-7 months in life. They had already been to like 9 different states, because they had gone to wrestling competitions that I was coaching at, or traveled with me to something, like traveling, go and seeing our families, things like that. So we were all over the place. And like, you went to Japan for a little bit, France, Bulgaria. And I was going to different states for competitions and having to make sure that everything at our house was taken care of. And so like, it was watching it, but also knowing that once he did decide to retire, that there was going to be some major changes that were going to happen in our lives. And so for me, knowing that once he did retire, because I was sitting in the stands with the kids right when he started kind of like pacing on the mat, and I like literally just like was looking at him, because he didn't tell me.
Wow.
He didn't tell me. He didn't tell anyone. And so like, I'm literally sitting in the stands, like clapping the girls' hands and like everything. And then the match ends, and he's kind of pacing on the mat. And I'm like, I literally look at one of my friends who was there sitting with me, and I was like, he's retiring right now. Wow. And I was like, I have to get down there. Yeah. And so like, I went, and like, I had a badge to get down there, but the fastest way for me to get down there was actually to jump the fence. And so I actually handed the girls over the fence to USA Wrestling workers that knew me very well. And then I jumped the fence. Wow. And like, I was also dressed in workout clothes, because I was like preparing for that night of where he was going to have to like make weight and everything like that. So like, I was getting ready to go sauna with him. I was getting ready to do those workouts with him, so that he could
shooting in the gym, boy. You got you a real one, J'den. You got you a real one, man.
So like, I was ready like for that night, and having like our families take the girls so that we could go and do the workouts we needed to, so he could be at weight for the next day and prepare for the next matches. But when he decided that he was retiring and everything, I was like, I got to get down there. This is something that we have to have and do as a family, because this is our biggest support and the best thing that we can do during this time. And so during that, like, we had a moment where it actually got caught on camera and everything, and we got to be able to see each other and just kind of like say like we love each other and that like we're here through everything. And then once that was kind of done and we left there, it came into the decisions of what are our next steps. And he applied for working at USA Wrestling. And once he got that job, I knew that I was going to have to let my team know that I was going to be leaving. And it was hard because this was a program that had been just on its second year starting. And the first year they had a coach. That coach ended up leaving. And then I had brought them from being completely split down the middle to basically back together where they were all able to agree, all able to train together, work together. And then I was stepping away and leaving.
Yeah. And there was even talks of us, like I had brought up, like, maybe it's a situation where you finish this class and like, I'll take this job and we'll make it work that way. But it was like, that was a little bit much, you know, that might've been too much, because we were very considerate to what she had accomplished and bringing that program back together to where it is and where it was. And yeah, so like, it wasn't like, hey, I retired, it was all spick and span. We had a lot of things to figure out. And even in the midst of, we talked about that moment, like I told her, because it was a very emotional, obviously retiring is, you know, it was an emotional moment. If anything, I definitely earned the right to get to retire. But I remember I told her, like, you know what, like, it's hard because I completely understand the reasons why I'm retired, why I'm walking away. It just sucks that I'm walking away. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, and it wasn't like a bad thing. It was just more of like, I've loved what I've gotten to do over the last was it year, decades, or whatever. Like I've gotten to be a part of so many people's lives and journeys and stuff. But, you know, I kind of tell people now this, and I even have this perspective, like I'm in my rocking chair phase, man. Like, yeah. I don't have to look back on my career because of the way, not even just because of what I accomplished. Like, screw my accomplishments. Who cares about those? Like, just on the matter of the effort and the perseverance that I had with my sport, I was like, I get to reminisce on what was, not be regretful about what could have been or dream about what could have been. Not because of what I accomplished, but because of, I know without a shadow of doubt that I gave everything I possibly could to do what I believed I need to do where I wanted to go. Right. And whether anybody else, you know, on my journey or whatnot agrees with that or whatnot, like I know for myself I did that. And if I can live with that, then I'm fine with my career. And so that's where I was with that. And honestly, her being there was a huge support. And then I think also just because she had the girls, I think once I saw the girls too, that helped me see like there are so many more important things than what's going on right now. There's so many more important things than making this next Olympic team or world team. There's so like, there are going to be people that have comments to say, their opinions, and to go on, and that, like none of that matters. Like you can say whatever you say to me. Well, J'den, you sucked. Cool.
Yeah. Right.
Still love my wife and kids. But I mean, I fervently believe you're wrong, but like that's fine. Like you do what you want to do. It's not going to change anything. So when it comes down to like what's really important and what really matters, like there's nothing that even compares. Right. And I even said this, they're the greatest things that I've done in my life. Right. First and foremost, I gave my life to Christ. Secondly, was the woman that I married. And thirdly, she blessed me to make me into a father. Amen. Like I've won 6 World Olympic medals. I've won 2 world titles. I've won Olympic bronze. None of those things even come close. And honestly, I would probably say don't even make my top 7 of things that top 8 of things that I have in my life that are actually mean something to me. Right. That actually, I don't know, that actually contribute to my life.
Can I just like stop you for a second? Because I think this is there's a couple of things I want to point out just to any listeners. We always talk about how hard marriage is. And I think sometimes people that are not married, sometimes from the outside looking in, will say it was Whitney's fault he left. It was the kids' fault he left. And not to compare, but, you know, Byron's in the military. I was in the military. I separated and very similar in the mindset of you, Whitney. Like somebody's got to step away. We have kids. I can't deploy and you deploy. Like this just isn't going to work. And I think sometimes from the outside, people look like, you know, that their opinion is that you had to give that up because of your spouse. However, there's a what's the word? There's a mindset that in order for us to be great, I have to sometimes take a step back and let you be great. And then that sometimes shifts as well. And in your story, you hear that piece. And I think a lot of listeners miss that sometimes, or maybe they don't miss it. Maybe they catch it. But I think marriage is hard. And it's not about necessarily making the sacrifice. It's about meeting you so that you can be great and fulfilled in this lifetime and in our marriage, because we want it to be as strong as it possibly can be and be fulfilled.
For sure.
Good word.
But yeah, just wanted to say that piece. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean
I was well said.
Definitely well said.
Give a snap for that one. That was
And so, Whitney, did you have, like, having been through a difficult relationship before getting into a relationship with J'den, did you have reservations with this relationship?
I did. I mean, we do have an age difference. So, and I am older. So like for me, I didn't know if he was going to be like ready to get married and have kids when I was ready.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that we kind of did hit a little bit of a snag for a little bit because he wasn't ready at the time. And I actually stepped back and I said, I want you in my life, even if it isn't as a relationship, and I love you still and I always will. But there's some things that like I'm not going to force upon you, because if I do force it upon you, then there's a possibility of you resenting me. And I don't want that resentment. And that's why like I gave space and I gave time, and we had some time away from each other. And like I knew that in that time that I was still very much in love with him and I wanted to be with him. And yes, we do have times where like people are interested and things like that. And it's like, I know for a fact that he was who I wanted to be with. And so like, yes, I may have had those reservations of like, is it going to be to where he decides in that time where we're able to get married and able to have kids, but not have that resentment. And so like, it was something that I feared a lot when we first started dating. And also him being younger, I had never really dated people that were much younger than me. And so like most of the time I was always dating someone that was older than me. Like in my previous relationship, the guy that I dated was 9 years older than me. But throughout that entire time, like I was the one that was always questioned, you're cheating, you're doing this, you're doing that. And I'm like, I'm not cheating. I'm not doing anything. Like I'm literally going to practice, coming home and going to practice again.
Yeah.
And not only that, I was also going to school because I finished my bachelor's degree and I started going for my master's. And I was about halfway through my master's and had stopped later on when we were actually dating because I changed my mind on what I wanted to do on my master's.
Mm.
But so like I did have some reservations at the time because I was just like, I don't know where this could lead. And also I want to make sure that we're on the same page because it's hard to know exactly where someone is, especially when we both went through such tough relationships where you had gotten engaged. Mm-hmm. And I was in a situation of where we were together for a very long time. And I was promised and promised and promised that we would get engaged. And that never came about. And I also was promised some other things and I ended up finding the truth about it. And so I walked away. And when I found the truth of it, I walked away, and he actually knew everything about the relationship. And this is where it came to where we were talking about that we needed to get into better relationships and not be with people that are choosing themselves and choosing things that just better them or are like good for them, they think. Rather than actually making it to where it's a good relationship where you're having that open communication and actually supporting the other and having a full life plan to be together forever, rather than just it's good now and I can treat you like crap and you'll just stay because you've been here for so long. Yeah. And so like that's where I had the fears because like I didn't know what it was going to be like, and I had been with that person for so long. So I had a lot of fear because they were cheating on me the entire time. Mm. And like, I was told, no, I'm not cheating on you, but I'm blaming you, saying that you're cheating the entire time. Mm. And so like, I had a lot of fear, and your ex actually was around a lot when we first started dating. still. And so like that made me have fear and made me also feel like at times that I was coming in second place to them. And so I actually had to have a conversation with him saying like, I don't want to come in second place to this person. Like if I'm going to stay around and if this is going to be our relationship that we have forever, we have to put each other first. And we have to like, other than God comes first for both of us, but being put in first place compared to anybody else that we've been with. And that it has to be a full reset. And that was something that he also had to tell me, because I at times would say or have that fear that something was going to happen. And so then we also had to build that trust and that communication throughout time.
Yeah, we had to go through a lot with stuff just because we were, like I said, we just had bad experiences. And I think we were trying to I would say this, probably one of our flaws was we were trying to, I kind of put it like this, like we were trying to grow flowers in sand, right? Like we weren't in the best place at the time. Like blessed are we that we got where we are today. But like, I would probably say it wasn't the best idea from when we started really trying to make this work, that we didn't go about it the right order, right? I would totally be willing to admit that. But we definitely had stuff that we had to deal with. And like, we were both trying to deal with it as good as we could, because I think even in the midst of us saying that we were in poor relationships and stuff before, don't get it confused with the fact that like, to say that we didn't love who we were with, right? Like, it was definitely like we were in these committed relationships, we were committed to these people, and like we put, like we said, time and effort, like we had love for them. And so when we were trying to break it apart, I think in the midst of trying to handle those situations with as much love and compassion, it caused for us at times, right, for both of our situations to make it where you could see where your partner, right, could feel like, hey, where am I at in this lineup? Like, where's this for me? Or why am I being treated this way? And what's going on here, right? And actually, I believe like we both had conversations where like, don't put me in that limelight with that person. I'm not that person. Like, I don't deserve that.
I'm not them, and I don't act like them.
Like I got some problems, but I ain't got that problem. Like, I'm not trying to say I'm better or worse, but I'm not that. Like, if you're tired of that, don't make me that. Like, and so, and I think the great thing is we finally got to a point where we got to a point for each other where we're like, you know what? Not just for each other, but like our own self personally. And I think this is where it finally became like we're finally getting somewhere. It was like we both got to a point with our exes and stuff where we're like, you're done. Like you don't get to have any more power over me.
You have no space.
Get out of my life. You have no space in here whatsoever. Not in the sense of like we wish anything bad upon you or anything like that, but in the sense of like I deserve better. All right. I deserve better than the way I've been treated. I hope you can do that with your own life. But I believe I have an opportunity at that, and I'm going to jump on it and go after it. And I think, we both made those decisions and we never looked back.
And you say it's a flaw, but I don't think it's a flaw in your relationship. I think that, or even, I guess you were dating at the time. I think every marriage and every strong couple goes through some type of battle, however that looks. And so when you're saying that, had you decided to walk away and not fight this fight or whatever, you could have canceled this blessing right now. Yeah. So to me, the fight was worth it. There was a reason that you had to get through that. And if that's the worst part of your entire relationship that you have to go through, that's easy, man. The rest is going to be great.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We are on the same wavelength because you're talking about the flowers in the sand, which I love, by the way. I'm going to coin that and use it later. But I love that, by the way. But that's great. But then also like in the right order, like there is no order. And I think that y'all have learned that, through your journey. Like, man, I'm so glad that we went through that because had we not, we wouldn't be who we are today. So it's great that y'all went through that, and I think that story right there is just going to prove so much to people that are going through challenges in their relationship right now, that it's ordinary. Even for extraordinary people, it is ordinary to go through challenges and sometimes frustrations with people that you are in a relationship with. So thank y'all for sharing that. That's legit.
And marriage is a fight. It's a hard thing to do. And you guys could have walked away and met someone else and then it didn't work out, like there's always a battle to be won with that, your marriage. It probably won't be the last, but I hope it is.
Y'all won the war. Y'all won the war.
That's right. Oh my gosh. This has been so good.
We're a wrestling family. We go to war. It gets crazy.
That's it.
That's why we try to de-escalate as much as possible. Hey, we just going to talk this one out.
That's
why
right.
are you putting your shoes on right now? Why are you getting your singlet on? Wait, don't be doing that right now.
Why are you walking to the mat? Hold on. What's happening right here?
Black eyes, everything. Come on.
Look, if they don't know, they better not mess with y'all.
Right.
No.
But yeah, now you're parents. So it's like, let's shift into that. Are we going to have like twin wrestlers happening in the future? Or are we like, no, none of that?
We're split down. Yeah. Honestly, we're split down the middle on that, actually.
Okay.
So you want them to wrestle?
I would like them to, but if they choose not to, then I support whatever they decide to do. But they're going to be around it, obviously, no matter what, most of their lives. So that's their decision. I don't like the forcing of kids choosing a sport, just because I played on multiple sports at the same time. And sometimes it felt like I wasn't really allowed to choose what I was wanting to do at first, until I actually spoke out and said, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. And I don't care really what you're going to tell me. That's going to make a difference of that. This is something that I want to do for the rest of my athletic career. So that was something that I did when I was younger, and I had to speak out, because I'm the baby of 5 kids, and they all played different sports. I was the only girl that wrestled. I had 2 older brothers that wrestled, and then I had 2 older sisters where they both did gymnastics, and one played volleyball in college. And so growing up, it was you're going to play volleyball. You're going to play volleyball. And I ended up hating volleyball. I purely hated it. And I still am not big on the sport. I know all the rules. I know all of it, but it's not something that I enjoy playing.
Yeah.
That was just something that I grew up dealing with. And it just made it to where I didn't want to do it at all. So then wrestling was the one thing that made me happy, but it was also the one thing that I could push myself, learn, grow, and never stop learning. Because no matter what, even as a athlete or a coach, even now today, I tell my athletes, if I don't continue learning and finding new ways to teach you things, then I'm failing you as a coach, because I have to learn how to be able to train you guys outside of the box and find new ways, because none of you learn the same. None of you are the same. You all learn and grow differently. So if I don't do that, then I fail you as a coach. So I'm always trying to find new ways and always trying to keep up with everything that's changing throughout the sport and throughout life as well.
Yeah. I'm different from her though. I don't care if they try it. So I'm more of a selfish when it comes to this question. It's not that I don't want to wrestle, right? But I would like for them to do something else, so that myself, since I've just been through the ropes on wrestling, on everything, it's more of I would like to have another lively experience. Hey, they want to do gymnastics. Well, what's that like in that journey, right? Or they want to do softball. What's that like in that journey, right? And then on top of that, I also think too, it's not like their parents are any slouches in that sport at all. I'm wary about, the fact that there could be some sort of a shadow cast on them as well, in the sense of that. So I want to make sure that, I think if they were to wrestle, I think first and foremost, one, make sure they truly have a passion for it. Right. And then on top of that, even in the midst of being involved in it, especially, and obviously this is at a particular age, right? They're able to understand that if there is a shadow that is cast, it is certainly not by us. Right. Yeah. And so I think that's also another aspect that I'm but I'm also well, we wouldn't have to have that conversation if we just play some baseball.
Right.
Yeah. It's super dangerous to have your kids play sports that you played, because we are
Listen, and we're not Olympic athletes, nor did we go to state, all right, even in high school, right? So, we are, oh my gosh, it's embarrassing. You know what? And we didn't realize this really until we were watching videos in bed yesterday morning. We like to sometimes reminisce and look at old videos, and the way that we were screaming at our 3-year-old son as he's on the court trying to play basketball. He's literally skipping and laughing and having a good time, as he should. I'm what are you doing? You need to get the basketball. I'm what is happening?
I was really embarrassed of my actions as well.
You know what's funny about that, though, is that we all have moments like that. Because then in your head, in that moment, you're saying this in that moment, Like, I was never like that. When I was 3 years old, I was Jordan out here. Like, I wanted to be great. I was
That's
but
exactly right.
We all were there. We were all kids, you know. We all were playing around and stuff. And so I think the big thing is, to that point, I just want my kids to have that enjoyment and fulfillment. And I want to be able to be a parent that can watch them and enjoy them, just enjoying life, and like not make them grow up so fast. Like, I want them to just enjoy that life, because it's not every day that you just have that innate feeling. Like, when's the last, like, that innate feeling, like you said, just skip around. The sky's blue. You're with your friends and you're just enjoying life in that moment, and just skip around, have fun, laugh, you know, it's just enjoying it. And so, like, as you get older, you know, it's more important. It can be hard, but like, find those moments. And so let them enjoy that. So that's what I want for my kids.
Yeah. Yeah. We do our best to just like not to tamper their personality and not to burn out their light, because man, their personality is so big and boisterous and loud. And a part of that can be frustrating when you need them to be quiet when you're recording a podcast. But at the same time, it's like, we welcome that. And it almost makes us proud, like, that we've been able to teach them how to be confident in who they are. And so, like, that is one of the proud things that we've been able to do so far as being parents.
Yes, and our childhood was a lot different than the childhood that our children have. And so I think for us, it's really amazing to see such like genuinely happy kids. Like, I think Jonah always says he wants to stay a kid forever. And I'm like, okay, you can't live with us forever. Like, let's just figure that piece out.
You could be a kid, but somewhere else.
Wait a second.
I love you. It's like bittersweet, but you know, you can't be 27. It's just not going to work. It's just, you can't be here.
Right.
Y'all talked about coaching and how, you know, there are different things and tools and guys that you want to impart on the people that you coach. Do you utilize any of those tools on your children?
Not at the, but they're just too young right now.
They're only 13 months, so.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, they're very young. We don't do that. I think, well, I don't know. When I take them to the restroom room and they start scrapping a little bit, I'm watching them like, let's go. You know, like, but there's, I think if anything, there's stuff, it's flipped, right? Where like there are things that I implement from my children into my coaching. And actually it's really helpful, because with my children, obviously they're 13 months, they don't understand, right? Something. And so like, they don't understand, like, hey, like sometimes Zoe will be like, we actually had talked about this. It's like, she'll kind of hit you, right? And stuff like that. Also, side note on that, she hit me in the nose the other day. I can't do, people ask me if I want to do fighting. I can't do it. This 13-year-old smacked me in my nose, and I was done. I was like, oh no.
Like,
oh no. Like, I'm done. So there's that. But so it actually helps me other flip. Like, I have to explain this to you as like, even in my coaching, like I may understand this. Like, I understand that. Right. Yeah. It's like, but it's like coaching, the way coaching works. It's not like, hey, I understand it, so I expect you to understand it. It's like, I have to find the intricacies and all these details of what I mean by what I'm saying, what I mean by what I'm showing. Hey, do you need to feel it more? Do you need to see it more? What's going on there? And I think, if anything, that's more of from a fatherly standpoint to a coaching standpoint, because with my children, it's the same thing. You don't understand why you can't play with the electrical plug outlet. Right. You don't get that. Right. And me just pulling you away and being like, no, doesn't really work. Especially,
like, what?
Yeah, they're like, like Zoe will look at me like this. Like, I'll have her hand, she'll look at me. Like, why are you grabbing me for? I'm like, hey, like, you know, and so, and even though like, and now Zoe's gotten this thing where like, now it's like, I don't have to tell her, and she's seen it, where like, she'll be doing something and I'll look at her and I'm like, Zoe, and she'll look at me and I'll be like, and then she'll go like this. and then she'll just kind of like put it down and walk away from it. So she's gotten to the point where like she kind of understands it. So I think more so like my having kids and that fathering aspect is actually transferred over into the coaching. On top of that too, big thing is patience, right? Patience has been something that's transferred from my fathering, because I originally didn't want to coach because I was afraid that I was I'd be so impatient. Right. And so instead of fueling the fire of someone's passion for the sport, I would drown it out with being like, nope, no, you're horrible. Like, that's bad. Like, don't do that. Like, all this stuff. I was afraid that I would actually put someone's fire out instead of growing someone's passion for the sport. And so really having kids has actually instilled a lot of patience, because I have no choice but to have it. and also having a partner that also can also help me learn to have patience, or be like, have a certain way. Because sometimes you have kids, you think about a certain way, like, oh, they meant to hit me in the face. This 13-year-old meant to beat me up. This they're trying to test me, right? Like, and having someone being like, like, nope, that's not the case. It's really helpful, and I'm grateful to have a partner to be able to do that for and have that done for me.
Yeah, I'm just picturing now, like, J'den's using these skills, and he's like looking at his wrestlers, and they're doing the same face. Like, he's like, He's like, okay, coach, okay, coach.
I need to start incorporating that in the practice room.
There you go.
Just like,
okay, but I know we're getting close to time here, but I wanted to ask you guys, what, in your opinions, is the strongest thing about your marriage and that you hope is portrayed to your children?
I guess our open communication would be one thing.
Yeah. I would say that, yeah. That'd be something. Like, there's nothing, like, even with this conversation, there's nothing that's off limits. And we've had and we've had some
very
in-depth, tough conversations, because it's not always about you guys as a team, right? Like, it is. But like, sometimes the conversations are like, hey, you're not doing this, or you're doing this, and I have a problem with it, right? And so being able to have those conversations and have it in a safe manner, right? In a manner where it's like, say what you need to say, and also in a respectful manner as well. It's like, I don't think we haven't had a moment where, and I will say, yeah, where we're yelling at each other, or nothing like that, or it gets
so heated that
it's hard to come back from it, right? But we definitely have had conversations where it's just like, hey, this is where I'm at, and they're stern, right? It's just like, this is how I feel. I'm like, well, this is how I feel, and this is what's going on here, and like, all right. And then it comes back to like, okay, I hear you, and you make some points on this, right? And then it's like, all right, you make some points on that. I think that when it comes to a relationship, and you can attest this, and maybe you guys can attest this as well. There's usually, I have a hard time putting my finger on something that's bothering someone. The solution is 100% on somebody else, on the other person.
Great. I
really struggle to find that, right? So when we have those conversations of like, hey, you do this, or you don't do this enough, I think the solution being like, well, just being, hey, you need to do that more isn't enough, because there's usually another piece that plays to it, right? Like, one of the things, like, I'm a night owl, for one. Like, I'm a night owl, but I'm also like a person, like, I'm a nerd when it comes to like video games and stuff. I love to play video games, okay? Yeah. But like, right, sometimes, and this is part of my lessons of learning to be in a relationship, right? Like, being more present at certain times, right? With my wife, with my kids and stuff. But I also understand, like, I was like, she would tell me like, hey, you play video games, right? That's cool. But like, hey, I need you, or like the girls need you at these times, whatever. And so, but I was like, okay, that's cool, right? I understand that. But also, like, I also need time just to decompress, because video games is one of my ways to decompress, like, just disconnect from everything. So let me kill some people on COD online, talk some trash to some people, and then I'll feel good for the rest of the day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so like, there's that conversation, right? And she brings it up. It's like, okay, so then I also need compromise, right? So it's not like, hey, like, you said your piece and I don't respect that, and I'm just mad, because it's like, oh, that's a point. And also on top of that, like, sometimes it's like, that wasn't something I wanted to hear at that moment. Like, okay, like, that's a problem. Like, I don't want to hear that, but it's a conversation we had to have. And it's just like, okay, where do we find this balance of, hey, I'm going to be present and be here, but also, when do I find my time to decompress as well? Because we both have very stressful lives. And I think even in the midst of our career, we both have different ways of, I think I heard you guys talking about this actually in an episode about, hey, sometimes I just need me time, and I need to just get away from stuff. And it's not even because of you, but it's because the world out here is crazy, and it's just harping on me. And right now I just need me. And I think we have different ways of doing that. And so the great thing is, like, we're like, hey, if you got a problem, just talk to me about it, because I can't help fix it, and nor can you help to fix it if we don't even know where we're at.
Yeah.
Each other's minds on that one.
No, we don't pretend to read each other's mind at all.
Yeah. And that's got to be hard, especially as a competitor. Like you had said earlier, like, you want to win. And I would assume that there's a certain level of pride, and sometimes maybe moments in your life where you think that you're right and your way is the right way. So again, applause to both of you for figuring out ways to kind of shape and mold that to where both of each other can fit in each other's lives. I do want to ask a question, and this is we're kind of rewinding a little bit, probably even before children, but from a man's perspective. And we talk about this a lot, especially in for professional athletes. You know, you've been around the world, you know what I mean? So, and we've talked about how difficult it could be in a relationship just for the simple fact of there's people of the opposite sex that are attracted to you. And now there's thousands, if not millions of people that are reaching out to you. What does that look like? How do you give the stiff arm in order for this to work out?
Well, actually, it wasn't that hard for me. Mainly because one, at the time when I moved out to Colorado Springs and was trained at Olympic Training Center, I was the only male athlete in wrestling here. Like there were no other male athletes that lived out here to compete for wrestling, right? So I was the only one out here. I should say freestyle athlete, because there were some Greco guys, right? But I was the only freestyle athlete here. But at the same time, too, Safe Sport came around, right? And so Safe Sport, for those of you who don't know, is basically like the Olympic Training Center was trying to hit on SA very, very hard, right?
Gotcha.
And so, and so we had the gymnastics stuff happen and things like that. And so they were very much like, hey, we got to do something about this. And so for me as an athlete, it wasn't very hard to be like, I saw so many people getting in trouble for even just the very minute things. Maybe some deservedly, some not, but it was just like, why risk it? I'm here, I got a goal set. So when I didn't even look your direction, it was just like, I got things to do today. Hey, J'den, hi, bye, go. Like I got blinders on. I got blind. Jay, do you want to come hang out? No, not unless there's like 30 people there. No, I don't want to do that. Right. So like there's that. That was a very good motivator to just be like, I'm gonna mind my own and I'm not even worried about y'all. I also think too, it's just kind of like, I don't know. I when you're part of me and you make a commitment to me, I am extremely loyal when it comes to that. And I think that was just something that was just embedded in me when I was young. I'm just very, very loyal to that. And like I will ride or die for you.
Yeah.
And that's you're what I'm about.
Yeah.
So I think that just being an innate part of it. I think on top of that too, when I go overseas, like I said, I don't talk to nobody. I don't text nobody. I don't call nobody. And it ain't because I'm out here having a jolly good time wherever I'm at.
Yeah.
Right. And like I always tell people, like I've been to a lot of countries, but I have not yet gotten to really explore / experience those countries. Because when I go there, to my hotel, I'm to where I'm training, and I'm to where my competition is. That's where I'm at. That's what I'm about. I'm there for business. I'm here for business. That's what it all is. So for me, it wasn't that hard because like the focus I had to have to do what I've done is like, this is where we're at. And I think too, just knowing that like, I have something amazing. Why would I jeopardize that?
Yeah.
Like, why would I put that at risk? Right.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if honestly, for me, it's like, if you want to try and take that away from me, shame on you. Like, it's not. It's like, that's what it really comes down to. If you want to try and take that from me, shame on you. And the relationships I've been through, especially my last one, right? The things I've had to go through, especially in searching for somebody to understand my life, understand me, to be a part of this, and understand that when I'm away from you, I'm doing all of this so that I can get back to you, right? And also I'm doing all this so I can provide for you and be with you. Like at the end of the day, the things that I'm accomplishing for my own goals and these things really come back in dividends to be able to provide and do more for the people that I love most. And so, because when I stand on the top of that podium, guess what comes with that? The check comes with that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That allows me to provide for the house. That allows me to put food on the table for there's a livelihood with this now.
So hold on, tell me, it's not just the glory. You actually get paid for that. Hold on, Dang, I chose the wrong sport. Hold on.
I could care less about glory. Nice words fuel your heart, but fueling the heart doesn't always pay your bills.
So right.
That's the case. But like, why would I jeopardize this at all? Like, it's just like, I'm far from a very perfect man, but I've been blessed too well by Christ and with what He's put in my life with my wife and kids to put that up for grabs, to risk that at all. And the great thing is, she trusts me, and that's amazing. And I trust her. She goes on trips as well. Like I trust her and I know how I look at her. So it's like, if I'm looking at you, like, I know somebody else got to be doing that. All right. So there's that.
That's
And
right.
we actually ran into this because when we first got together, I was very not social media heavy. I didn't post on social media past my sponsors, what I was supposed to do. And that for her was a little bit like, was a bit of an issue because I didn't put on, like, we weren't Facebook official. I didn't put on Instagram. I didn't do anniversary posts. I didn't do anything like that. Like, I didn't do that mainly because I never wanted to give.
You wanted some separation.
Well, I wanted separation of my personal life and what I do, which everybody can see. Right. But also at the same front too, I didn't want to create the echo chamber of which people try to use social media for, being toxic and whatnot today. Right. But I did make a promise to her. And I said, I may not tell the world that we are together. I may not put out on Instagram or Facebook or anything that, I am with Whitney Condor. Right. But the people in our lives that mean the most will know my heart for you. Right. And even in the midst of stuff, like, we both carried a lot of baggage of our previous relationships, just getting into this one, right? And so I think one of the biggest fights we had for both of us, right, was to not put each other in the shadow of what our exes have done, right? Especially in the sense of when it comes to trust and loyalty and respect and things like that. We both had things that we had to work on to be like, you're not them, and you don't deserve to be judged as them. You deserve to have this love and that fortitude to you. So it's kind of where we're at. Yeah. But I think, and I know we're kind of coming to the end, but it's something else I want to bring this up because this is a very real reality. Like I said, I believe in what your guys' show is about, and we love talking about things. So, and this is something that I was thinking about. So, crazy thing is, so that moment we talk about my retirement, right? And this is something we've had to deal with. And Brittney, I know you'll attest to this as well, just with our families, but like, even our dynamic when it comes to just the fact that, like, I'm Black and she's white, right? There were a lot of things that were said social media wise, just about us being a different race from each other, and saying, why are they with them and them or her with him, and things like that, or what's their game plan, like, what's going on here? Like, even that is a very realistic thing that still, surprisingly, still occurs, right? And even for me, like, when I got into a relationship with Whitney, telling her, I am not one to scream, and she knows this, I'm not one to scream racism first. Like, I want to definitely talk and figure things out from the bottom of it. But, I had to tell her, though, in reality, like, hey, there may be some things that you might experience and or see being with me that you might not have experienced before. Right. And especially now that we have children who are mixed as well, they might have things that you may experience or see that you are going to have to be cognizant of. I'm not saying that you got, every time we go to a park or go to a school or something like that you got to be like, all right, who's going to be the one? But when those things occur, understand why they're occurring and understand what's going on. And that's just the reality of it is. And I'm not saying this in the sense of the majority. I'm saying this in the sense of the minority, right? Of the problems that happen, just in our liveliness in this country sometimes. But I'm saying it in the sense of, like, I would rather be prepared for it, for when it arises, than act like it doesn't exist ever, right? And so just giving her that reality, because even you were surprised at some of the social media stuff that was being said about you whenever our video from me retiring got posted and stuff on NBC Sports. Like, it was crazy, the fights that were happening. We have this wonderful moment where I'm being supported by my wife in one of the hardest decisions yet and I've had to make in my life, right?
I was just being picked apart on some of it. And just
being picked apart, like, what was it?
She's in it for the money. She's gonna go and take all of his money. She's gonna end up in jail sometime, and she's gonna be the person that puts him there.
They even said you were racist too. They said
she was I was the most racist of all because I married him so that he wouldn't give out more Black kids and, like, other stuff. I mean, I had people saying that I looked like a man and everything. Like, it was just because, like, I was in workout clothes that I wasn't dressed how people thought I should be dressed like. And I was like, I wasn't there for anything other than to support what he needed so that he can make that Olympic dream a goal to happen. And, like, it was just like, wow, like, thanks. And, like, there were still some great, like, supportive people for sure.
Yeah.
But it was just, like, so interesting to see the, like, different sides so much. And, like, there were people that would, like, go and say like, she wrestles too. Like she's been at that level as well. Like she's not in it for the money. And if you actually look at wrestling, like, yeah, we'll say we get a paycheck when we're standing on that podium, but wrestling is not a big, huge money sport.
This ain't the NFL.
Right. It's not baseball.
It's not the NBA. It's not the NFL. Like it is not a huge paid wrestling sport. And I was in the military for 10 years. And like, I've earned my money. I've gone and worked for my life. And so it's like, I'm like, I don't ever like not work for something. Like I am a person that works and has been so independent and wanting to always earn everything that I do. So like, it just caught me off guard of like, obviously they don't know me and they don't know like what I've done throughout my life, but it was like an automatic, just like, well, this is what she looks like. So she obviously is just in it for taking whatever he has. And so I was like,
it was a very interesting moment, but I think that was just a testament to what I told her beforehand. Right.
Yeah.
And I am not trying to like, go and get a little personal, Brittney, but like, even with like our family, and I love my family, particularly on my father's side. Right. And even on my grandmother's side, actually, you know, like on my mom's side, because, you know, they're in that time period of like, you know, there was a lot of historical animosity there. There's a lot of resolved baggage with some things that have happened and occurred in the past. And, you know, I think that there's like, even like for how my brothers or certain people were looked upon with who they married and deciding to marry outside of their race, it was a little bit, you know, frowned upon, eventually coming around, right? But it's still not the same as having that support in the midst of going through that, right? And like for me, I never wanted to shy away from family. That's why I was very quick to introduce Whitney. But I was also honest with Whitney, like, hey, there might be it might be a little bit different than what you.
They may not like you.
They may not like you at first, right? But they may not, you know. And and then like, you know, because like she would be like, well, they liked me. I was like, yeah, but you weren't there for the conversation after you walked away.
You weren't there for the debrief.
Right.
Like,
let's unpack this a little bit.
Why are you doing that? And it's like, and I'm proud of this because I know our family members probably will see this. I have nothing but love and respect for you. That's why like I'm still going to bring my kids to our Christmases and our Thanksgivings and all of that, because, you know, I want them to know where they come from and the people they come from. Because even though I think this, like, having flaws does not keep you from being a good person and does not keep you from being a great person, right? And I think that anyone in my family is a wonderful person, because without their intervention in my youth and growing up, I don't know if myself am who I am today, right? And so they've done nothing but be loving and kind and all that stuff, but they still do have things, especially when it comes to stuff like this, that need to be worked on. And just because there's work needed to be done doesn't mean that I'm not going to bring my family and be around, right? In fact, with this being the scenario, I'm going to bring my family around more for you, because I want my children to have to experience this, and that, hey, this is my heart here, right? Don't look at my heart, right? And like, that's where, and it's like, you're my own blood, and that's what we need to do. So
I even said like with like some of your family, I was like, it's okay right now if they don't like me. I was like, one day I'll get them to love me and see who I truly am. And like at the beginning, like even with some of your family members, I was sending like birthday cards, wishing them well and everything like that. And like now I get like messages where they're like, I love you, how are you guys doing, and everything. And so it's like, I always send them pictures of the girls and things like that, just being more involved, to where I'm not trying to be anybody who I'm not. Like, it's already who I am, and just showing exactly who I am, and part of the reason why we are together, and part of the reason of why our relationship works the way that it does, because we aren't trying to be someone that we're not. Like, we are completely open and show each other exactly who we are and what we want with our lives and how we want to go through life together and have our future together.
Yeah.
And that's really a them problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you love your family, and you, like you said, J'den, you want them. But being a woman that is biracial, I think being biracial is probably one of the most difficult things to be in our country. It puts you in a very difficult spot. And that could be an interracial marriage, and this could be a whole episode in itself. Okay. So I won't even dive into that. But what I will say is, we are here and we are building for the future of our country, for the future of what people should be like and look like and act like. And that's all we can do is we love each other. We show love. I know my mother, who obviously was in an interracial marriage, used to say, people would say to her, I can't believe you brought kids into this world that are biracial. And she's like, if you look at them, that's the future right there. That's the future. And I always carried that with me. So what you're doing and who you're loving, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So like I said, I could get on a tangent on this all day though, so I won't.
Yeah. What you said is
we just set up your next 4 or 5 episodes.
Seriously.
You really did. You really did. Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate you.
My family's not perfect either. Our side's crazy as well. Because like I grew up in a religion that I actually left just before we started dating. And so like there was a huge like thing that happened that we dealt with even going through it, because where my family like at first thought I left the religion because of dating him. And I was like, I want nothing to do with the religion because of other things that have happened throughout my life. And it's something that I left it. And like, so at first they kind of questioned him and they asked him a couple things and he's like, I have nothing to do with that. She left that was her decision. And that happened even before we even started dating. And so like, there was things that like my side that like he had to kind of like know before we went through some of the situations that we dealt with on my side of the family too.
Yeah. So as y'all are sharing that story, one, I commend you all for appreciating your relationship for what it is, and then also being willing to share with the world who you are, regardless of what backlash may come from it, And it reminded me of a conversation we've talked about before on the podcast where before we got married, our premarital counseling, our pastor told us that to never allow anyone else to paint in your portrait. Only we own the paintbrushes to create our masterpiece. But what I didn't think about when he talked about that is what you all are doing right now. Once the masterpiece is completed, sharing it, right, with the world. And that's what you're doing with your family, regardless of what the criticizers might say about your portrait is yours, right? You see the art, you see the beauty in it, and you are going to have people that may not agree with the art that you created or might not see the value in it, but you do, right? And so I love that, and God does 100%. So I love how y'all shared that. I think I like that you opened up that can, and again, it's going to be a whole nother conversation, but we dealt with the same thing in our family too. Brittney was the closest to white that I've ever dated in my life. So even her being mixed and having black, and my family knowing her family my family had reservations about her, and so because of the way that she spoke. And I used to tell her to myself too, like, man, the way that you articulate, it sounds like it hurts your mouth. Like I didn't know that you could speak so well. Like it's just like that must be painful, Wow. But I've come to know, like you said, I've come to know her heart, and as did my family, So yeah, just a wonderful, wonderful thing. So great message, and I appreciate y'all sharing that.
If I had advice for anybody,
yes,
and I've been talking, so it's crazy now. It's kind of like you ever get you got a new car and you think for a while, like you got your new car, but then everybody else starts getting that car.
Yes.
I feel like marriage is the same way. Cause then I got married and then everybody was getting engaged and everyone else was getting married. But like, I'd probably say if I had to give my 2 cents of advice on those things, I said, one, especially from an athlete's perspective, and I'm going to speak from an athlete's perspective, learning to be more present, right? Because that's the biggest one for me. And I know for me, because once I get done with wrestling and stuff, and I put my all into that, right? I've had practices where I'm almost passing out, right? Like it's just, I'm giving everything I possibly get to this. And then when I get home, I just completely just want to disconnect, right? And just relax and everything. But then Whitney gets home, right? And she's retired and she just got done. It probably is a nice thing just to be like, hey, how was your day? How was work, right? How was your practice, right? Stuff like that. So being just a little more engaged. And then once we had kids, I had to learn to be even more present, right? Because now I don't only have to be present for my wife, I need to be present for my wife and for my children.
Yeah.
Right? But I would say that, and then I would probably say, don't doubt what you felt for someone. So especially when we talked about hey, all this criticism and stuff and whatnot, don't doubt what it is. Don't confirm things, conversate about things, right? Don't confirm what's coming up. Hey, I feel this way, and then you're going to look for that reason because you can make a lot of things true just if you try hard enough.
That's a fact.
Right? And so I would just say, like, don't confirm it, conversate about it. That way you can eliminate your doubts on things, right? And or then learn where you need to go from there. So those would be my 2 cents on that. Because we definitely made a lot of things where we tried, in the beginning of our relationship, where we tried to confirm on things. And I think that's why it took us so long just to get to here, right?
It's all right. It's about the journey, though. So it's all right. We thank you guys for sharing your story with us and everyone else. We appreciate you. And what an amazing love story in general, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just crazy as we recap here to think about how you can be at the top of your game, you know, you personally, but then think that there's even more heights to be reached just by being in a relationship with someone else. They can just bring even more out of you. And we learned that on today. So thank y'all so much for being here with us.
Yes.
So thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I think that does it. I mean, that was great. Lots of good nuggets in there for our listeners. Might have to go back and listen to that a couple of times. So I heard you guys drop some good lines in there. It's probably that their coaching experience, you know.
So, why they hired us. They paid the big bucks for that.
That's right.
That's right. Awesome. Well, thank y'all so much again to all of our listeners who have been with us throughout this whole journey. And for those of you who are new to our podcast, just know that we're here to talk about real, relatable relationships where we just honor open communication and transparency. I feel like that's where most of the learning is made and or has. So thank y'all again for being here with us. And without further ado, be blessed, be you, and just be proud.
I'm blessed to be